Deaf president now? Yeah, I remember deaf president now. It's something that's hard to forget. It was a few decades after the great civil rights movements of our parents' generation, but we were full of the same passion and the dream of equality, and natural rights was still something we knew we wanted. We had been oppressed, persecuted, misunderstood, and underestimated for a long time, and we were ready to prove to the world that we were just as good as them, that we were people too. Gallaudet University was a 124-year-old school for the deaf, and is still the only deaf university in the United States. It was 124 years old and had never had a deaf president. In 1987, when President Lee resigned, the Board of Trustees established a committee to choose the next president of Gallaudet. The selection process went along, and by the end, 2 out of 3 final candidates for president were deaf. Many deaf people made it clear to the board that we wanted a deaf president as the next president of Gallaudet. We were sure that the board would select a deaf president. May 1st, there was a huge student rally to show our support of a deaf president. The morning of March 5th, the board announced Elizabeth Zinser, the only remaining hearing candidate, as president. At first, we were shocked. We couldn't believe it. It was like I had just been slapped in the face. But the shock wore off fast, and we became angry. Many of us marched down to the hotel where the board had a meeting and demanded an explanation from the board. Jane Spillman, the head of the board, allowed some student representatives to meet with her, but that didn't help. It only made us angrier and showed us just how out of touch the board and Spillman were with the deaf people. That night, we decided we wanted a deaf president, and more importantly, we wanted change, and we wanted it now. The next week was full of excitement, action, and passion like I had never seen. It was the week that the world heard Gallaudet. We wanted a deaf president now. We weren't taking no for an answer, and we'd do anything to prove it. The next morning, we shut down the school. No one was allowed in. Then we presented our 4 demands. 1, Zinser must resign as president, and a deaf president must be chosen. 2, Spillman must resign from the board. 3, the percentage of deaf people on the board must increase to at least 51%. And 4, the protesters were not to be punished. The board refused us, and so we marched and we rallied and we protested. The school was reopened the next day, but most of us attended rallies and speeches, boycotting classes. I'm still shocked by how much support there was. There were so many people, and the longer the week went on, the more people came. There were faculty and staff members, alumni, even students from other deaf schools were voicing their support and arriving to show it. Government officials joined our number, including Vice President George Bush, several senators, and a congresswoman to voice their support for us and their belief in a deaf president. There were news reporters everywhere, all the time. There was so much energy, I can't really describe it. It's like my heart would burst out of my chest. We were empowered, like we had never been before. For once, we had the stage, and the world had to listen to the deaf people. On Thursday night, March 10th, Zinser announced her resignation as president of Gallaudet. Excitement filled us, but we pushed on. We would keep going until all our demands were met. By Sunday, all our demands were met. Spillman had resigned. The next chair of the Board of Trustees was named. A task force would be set up to determine the best way to achieve a 51% deaf majority on the board. No reprisals for those who participated in the movement. And Dr. I. King Jordan was named 8th president and first deaf president of Gallaudet University. In 8 emotional days, we had made an incredible difference. We had changed history. We had made people notice. No more were we the poor deaf people. We had respect, the world's attention, and power. Deaf power. Not only that, but we proved to ourselves that change is still possible. That if you stand up and fight for what you know is right, you may just find that that is all you need to make a difference. Never are you underqualified to speak. even if it is with your hands.